Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This week we're doing kind of a couple of different things. We've got early seeding to do for our peas and our vegetable garden, but we thought we'd come out and before we get into that, just kind of show you kind of a general cover crop that was undersown our sweet potatoes about a week or two before we all got finished with harvesting and everything like that. And they hadn't really germinated at harvest time, but the seed was already in place. So once we finished with harvest and just kind of smoothed the beds out, we ended up with, these are both of our sweet potato beds. This one on my left had biochar in it and compost, and this one just had straight compost in it. And I just wanted to show that today is, the 9th or 10th of February, somewhere around in there. And the difference in the cover crop is pretty substantial. This is Oregon annual rye plus cereal rye, and it's got a little bit of vetch in it, and of course our ever-present volunteer of elephant garlic. So there's quite a bit of difference in growth in terms of the amount of seed I used on both beds was essentially the same. So I know that I wasn't really, short on seed, and even after I finished with the sweet potatoes, I even threw a couple more handfuls of seed on it, as I smoothed the bed out, just to be sure that I had everything in here. And it really, I've been surprised on this. This has got probably another 3 weeks before we move into occultation on this thing. And by that time, probably another 3 weeks, it's going to be really thick, and it's going to be probably, double in height of where we are. And this right now is almost 20-30% higher than my bed on the right. So I've been pleased with the effects of this. Was our own biochar, it wasn't purchased. And this is the second year since the biochar application on it. And it seems like we're starting to see that difference begin to build. And, I thought, well, maybe it's because of the type of crops that we've been raising on these things. But in actuality, since they're both sweet potato beds, and they've been both sweet potato beds now 2 years in a row, I don't think that's made a difference much at all on it. So I'm going to attribute essentially the better looking plants to I think the effects of biochar. We did a couple of videos on how we're making our biochar, how we're charging it, and all that kind of stuff. So you might want to check those out. And anyway, this is just kind of a quick update in the garden. We're going to start getting things ready. We got to start getting the compost on the beds, and we've already started the onions, and then we're going to start our peas. So let's go down and check those out. Okay, so here we are back at the greenhouse, and I just kind of want to show you, we've got 2 soil blockers here. This is the one we worked with earlier that gave us our 1-inch blocks for our onions, and it has 35 individual cells in here with what are called the small dibble, which means it's a shallow dibble. It's maybe only about that deep. We can zoom in, but it's about, let's say it's a 1/2 inch if it's that deep. It's probably more like somewhere around 3/8 of an inch or something like that. And then the next one we're going to be working with today, this is going to make 1.5 inch size blocks, and it has what's called the long dibble in it. And the long dibble has, let me take one of these out here so we can give you an example if I don't lose it. This is an example of a long dibble, and you can kind of see it's definitely over a 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit longer, and the short dibble is maybe half of this size. And these things go into these blockers real easy. They just kind of snap in, and it's more of a problem of having long enough fingers to be able to get it done. You can just tend to push it back in, it snaps back into place, and then they're all ready to go. So the design of this stand-up blocker is the same idea. You have your push-down handle and then your release handle. So same idea. So we can get roughly 3 charges into a 10 inch by 20 inch tray. It does leave some gap. If you wanted to fill the tray even more, you could use your hand blocker and make additional blocks to fill the sides in the end. I haven't done the exact count on it, but it usually ends up being you have room for one additional line on the side and one additional line at the end. But that makes a really pretty full tray. We're not really pressed for space, so we're not going to really go through that extra effort. We're just going to stamp out our trays at 60 a piece and then use those things for our seating purposes. So first thing I want to do is just kind of show you this guy in action. This is mix like we made before in our last thrilling episode on soil blocking. This is already pre-mixed. It's already got all the right components in it. And if you want to go back and see how we put that together, you can check out a video. We did it a few weeks ago. We'll actually put a link at the end of this video to it. So if you want to be specific and find the exact one, it'll be one of the recommended videos at the end of our video today. So next thing to do is you're just going to fill this guy with water. So I like to do this kind of closer to the greenhouse so I have access to my water and where I'm going to be seeding. So it takes a bit of water. We're going to get this to a slurry, just like we talked about before. We're going to get it to looking like a mortar, kind of like you would use for making bricks. And let me just put this up temporarily here. It's going to take a lot of water to get this thing going, so maybe what I'll do here is I'll cheat a little bit. I've got a bucket of water here with me so we can get a little more. Speed up the process. Now you don't have to use a hoe. You can use your hand, or maybe if you even have a small shovel, something. I just use this little old short-handled garden hoe to kind of get things mixed up. Now this should easily make more than 3 trays. We're going to do a couple extra later on today for our sweet peas. But right now, the main thing we're trying to get done is for our veggie peas, our snow peas and our shelling peas.
So where did you get the tub?
The tub, again, we got this at Home Depot. You go into like the masonry section, where they sell concrete blocks, bricks, etc. Concrete, and these are called mortar trays, and they have various different sizes.
You use this a lot.
Oh yeah, this is their big size, and then we got a smaller size that we just use for kind of mixing small amounts of potting soil in. They're pretty cheap, and you don't feel bad if they get busted or something or scratched up or what.
We've had it several years.
Oh yeah, we've had this thing for probably 7-8 years now. They're very durable.
And a nice seeding tool.
Yeah, and they're available just basically anywhere. They sell mortar supplies, plastering, stuff like that. And they were cheap too. I think like this big one here was maybe $20.
Not pretty, but functional.
Yeah. So, and if you're doing tons of this stuff, like if you're really scaling up on your production, meaning if I was doing like 40, 50 trays, I'd use a cement mixer.
Which we have.
Which we have.
And used a lot.
Yes, we did. I do have some extra mix up here that I'm going to use for in case it's get too much standing water. You can always just throw in extra dry mix. Leaves are optional. Sometimes, if you start mixing up and you go, well, it's a little too wet, you can always just throw a few handfuls in, mix a little more and see how it comes out. This looks pretty close to being just about right.
You're going to throw it against the wall?
All right, let's see what happens when I throw it against the wall. Looks like it sticks.
Yeah.
It's spaghetti. All right, so I got my dipping bucket filled up. Just need to get that, to get a little lubrication on the old stand-up blocker. This is, again, this tray here is purely for support. It's more of a rigid tray. This weave bottom is what we're going to make our blocks into. And then we put it in our jig. So that way when we're blocking and we're shoving back, I have a foot against it and it can't slide around on me. So again, we push down on the silver bars, give it a good twist till we see some water coming out of the top. Looks like it pretty filled up pretty good. Voila. Hey, works the first time. You don't have to dip every time in water, but sometimes it just gets to be a habit. Drain the excess water off because we don't need to carry that over. We're going to tuck this guy right up tight next to the last one. And again, didn't get as tight as I thought, but close enough. Oh, look at that. It had a block slip out. See, I think my mix is getting too wet. So I'm going to put a few handfuls of dry in here. Just kind of soak up that extra water. So even in the best of worlds, sometimes you get too wet. That's the beauty about this stuff, is if it gets too wet, just put more dry in. If it's too dry, just put a little more wet in. Yeah, that feels pretty good right there. See, that's filled up nicely now. I better hurry this up. I'm going to miss my train. Okay, so let me tip this up a little bit. You can see that we have a gap along the inside here, plus at the end. And it's approximately exactly the size of our blocker. This is a hand blocker of the same size block. Now this guy does 5. So what it would look like if you made blocks is you'd get basically 2 complete charges plus 3 extra, and then you would get a complete charge over here. So basically you're going to get 3 charges, 15 plus 3 or 18 more blocks on top of the 60. So a full tray will give you 78. Kind of an odd number, not a 72, not an 84, but and that's if you were trying to be super efficient with all of your space. But we're not going to worry about that because we've got extra space, and it's just easier just to do 3 charges per tray, and then we'll be good to go. So let me just finish the rest of these guys up, and then we can talk about the peas. Okay, so we're back here in the greenhouse. The type of shelling peas we're planting this year are called Bistro. We've done that in the past, so they've got a really good germination rate. They're pretty accurate here at Johnny's. 97% seem to be pretty good. We're not going to inoculate these guys, but again, this was all made with really pretty fresh compost, so I'm assuming that we've got quite a bit of biology and things. So we're going to do 2 60 trays of these guys, and they probably will sprout in about 7 to 10 days. We don't do any pre-soak on our seeds for shelling veg type pea seeds. We're just going to plant them direct into the block itself, and then the same thing with our snow peas. Our snow pea varieties this year is Avalanche, and it really performed well in our climate. We're in a maritime Pacific Northwest climate, zone 8B. So these guys will ultimately end up going in the ground once they get up and they put on their maybe first set of real true leaves. We're not going to let these guys grow super long, and so all we're going to do is we just put these guys into the dibble hole And the dibble hole being nice and deep is perfect for a seed this size. It goes down and leaves about probably a 1/4 inch or more over the top. And
Just one.
just one per block, yeah. We're not double sowing or anything like that. Now, some of them, obviously will come out being duds. And what we'll do with those blocks is we'll just throw those into the compost pile. And then, of course, we'll find out later they just germinated late and we have the best peas ever out of the compost pile. No, I'm just kidding.
That happens.
But once, we have enough of these guys in, you could cover it up with some dry potting mix. In our case, we're probably just going to use some vermiculite today. And that way we'll kind of make sure they have a nice, they'll have a lot of moisture from the sides and the block and the bottom. And we want to leave enough air, porosity above the top of them so that kind of helps them, get started and not rot. We kind of found that for us worked out best. And maybe it doesn't look as nice and neat because vermiculite can kind of move around a bit on you, but still.
You'll cover them with a dome, right?
Yeah, and then we'll cover them with the dome until we start to see sprouting. That just kind of traps the humidity in. We didn't put a solid bottom on these guys, so there will be some airflow from the bottom. Okay, so yeah, with the bottom heat thing, I guess if we did, we'd probably just keep it as low as we can get it, 68, and then just kind of keep an eye on it. I don't want to, go too warm on these guys. I'm thinking 60 to 65 is probably typically good for peas, but maybe 68 is not going to hurt it. And so we'll do 2 trays of each of these guys. We have 4 of these 60 trays. And then we'll just put some of that fine vermiculite, which seems to have spider webs in it, over the top. Moisten it down with a spray bottle or a fine mist from a garden hose, so there's moisture on the top. And then, like Denny said, we'll put a plastic humidity dome over the top. And then once they germinate, we'll definitely take them off the heat mat. We want them to grow cool. And we want to transplant these guys when they get right to the stage of good first set, true set of leaves, and maybe they're putting out one tendril right around that size. Not too much.
Isn't it the optimum is President's Day or something like that?
Yeah, if you're sowing around here, I guess it used to be Washington's birthday, was around the 17th of February or something. 20th, somewhere around in there. It's like and today we're the 9th. 9th or 10th. I always keep kind of a spray bottle handy and just kind of wet it down. Just make sure it's nice and damp. Remember, there's a lot of moisture in these blocks, so these seeds are going to puff up really pretty good. And then we put a humidity dome over the top. These things like to nest together really well. And that is basically it. And then we'll put that on the heat mat. So we'll take care of all of them kind of using that method and just kind of checking them on, a pretty regular basis, like once a day. And just to make sure nothing's going awry. Our greenhouse is starting to fill up with some things. The onions are just about ready to go down to another propagation house we have that's unheated for growing on purposes. We gave them their first fertilization last week, and they're not as floppy as they were a week ago, but they're looking better, and they're ready to water and fertilize again today. Or actually, tomorrow's Fertilizer Friday, isn't it?
Yep.
And our first lettuce transplants, we started those in mini blocks, similar to like we've got over here with our our first spinach and kale. This is a kale mix.
Oh, there you go.
It's a kale mix. And a Savoy Calibri is the variety of spinach. And this is just enough. See, we're raising these things in successions of small amounts so that we'll harvest on them and then begin to replenish them probably once we get these guys ready to go into the soil. When the lettuce is ready for transplant and the spinach and all that, then we'll start, when we actually put these in the soil, we'll start the next round. That way we're because we're going to be able to harvest on these lettuce. We will pick the lettuce leaves and the spinach and things like that, leaves, so we can get an extended harvest on our greens plants. And Charles Dowding kind of turned us onto that method, and it really gives you a lot longer harvest window. And so we can get away with probably 4 to 5 weeks in between our successions on our lettuce and spinach. And
we don't usually do whole head cuts.
No,
we do.
It's all loose leaf.
Loose leaf ones. Yep. We like that the best. That way you can add all kinds of different leaves in your salad, and it's colorful and tasty and great.
Yep. And our potting mums have broken. Those are pot mums over there in the far corner. If you want to see it, if you don't, we can edit this part. We can edit that part out. But anyway, these guys have begun to break dormancy, and when they get a little bigger, we'll take some more cuttings off of that, so we can have more pot mums around the house this fall.
We just bought those from a garden center.
Yeah,
and they were really pretty. So we decided, let's see if we can overwinter them and keep them, and then just add them to our
we
landscape.
lost one.
Right.
It was a beautiful red, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the others seem to be in pretty good shape.
Yep.
So they did well. And then we have our flower starts, and they're just...
I'm sorry if I'm making you ill.
Oh, we'll just edit in pictures.
Yeah. This is all the leeks and shallots and other onions.
They're all ready to go. And so we've got a lot of stuff started here.
And we got lots more to do.
Yep. Bunch of flowers, Lysianthus and things of that nature. And over here we've got petunias. We got 600 blocks of various petunias that we're going to be raising for all our pots this summer, and also around the landscape too. So they're just getting things started rolling, and pretty soon this greenhouse is basically oriented for germination, and until we get through the worst of the cold nights for us, which usually the worst ones are over by the end of the month, we'll be able to move the cold hardy stuff down to our propagation house, which has nice long tables, and we can take care of the watering and all that kind of stuff down there and let things grow on. So that's kind of where we are today on February 9th.
Don't you find it kind of funny that for supposedly going smaller, our greenhouse is already filling up?
Well, it was never very big, was it?
Nope. It was just, this was built with the idea of we were going to do what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
It was just for
Except I
hobby.
think we've scaled up. We're scaling up more veg
and
than
scaling down.
Scaling down on flowers. Food, we're just going to try to supplement more and more of our own food. Part of it is we get to choose the varieties, we can choose the types, and then quality.
Yeah, our stuff, you pick it at the perfect time and we get more choice, and it's just we're moving, trying to be year round. That's going to be the trick, but that's why we're starting as early as possible to see what we can get in and see how deep or into next year we can go.
Yeah, see, like next month we'll be starting our first round of dried beans in the tunnels. So,
wow, already?
Yeah, already. Late March. We plan our first round.
Yeah, that's right. It seems early, but...
Yep. But anyway, so any other thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Just nice and warm in here.
Well, I got 3 more trays to go, so thanks for joining us today, folks. And as always, stay safe out there. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.